Hey guys, on this video I will be returning to Stars Hollow with my latest review of the Gilmore girls. I hope you are staying safe in these turbulent lockdown times, and to be honest there's no better way to enjoy yourself and to escape things than by cozying up to the sofa and watching a Gilmore Girls episode. Certainly an addictive show, especially at this sort of time. Classic escapist sort of viewing, and yeah, it's something I'm going to be doing more of, I think, over the coming weeks, maybe months. So it's been a while since I've done one of these reviews, so apologies for that. I'll try and make it a more regular thing. Maybe once a week at least, maybe sometimes more. I won't promise anything, but that could be a target. So as I said, this is episode 8 of the first season, and it's called Love and War and Snow. So the three big ones. Actually, that's really like kind of grammatically sort of not great on the show's part, that title, but whatever. So as you figured out from the title, there's some snow in this one. It's snowing in Stars Hollow, which is a rare event. There's a little bit of love, which I'll talk about. And the war part is because there's a reenactment going on in the town. And that is because it's like the anniversary of this war which took place in Stars Hollow many decades ago, and it's just a town tradition that every year they mark the anniversary, and some like residents get dressed up and reenact it. So they're like proper like reenactors, and there's this little like juicy nugget which comes out of the episode, which actually then Luke's father was a reenactment. And I do like the line actually when the mayor, who's like sort of leading this, he kind of mentions to Luke, you know, your father was a reenactment, and Luke says, yes, I know, and he was crazy as well. So classic Luke sort of sarcasm. So what this episode is kind of about is the fact that Lorelai basically loves snow. She has like fond memories of snow. She's telling Rory every time it snows, things just go great. You know, kind of all these great events have happened in my life when it's snowing. And this episode is no different because she randomly bumps into Max and they have their first date. And it goes really well. She has a really great night, and I think there's sort of this dramatic irony going on in the episode where Lorelai is like the only character who's having a great night as a result of the snow. I think that's kind of the thing that's happening, where things are just going right for her and she's like welcoming the snow, and the rest of the town things are just, I mean, the other main characters, if you like, things aren't going so great. I suppose in a way Rory's life is going pretty well with the relationship with Dean, but she has her own issues in the episode. And the snow is kind of like causing havoc with like the travel and with the telephone lines in the town. So actually it's this sort of irony that the only one who's having a good time as a result of the snow is Lorelai. But I think there's two characters who have a good episode, or it feels like a big sort of episode for them. And one is Luke, and one is Lane, I think. Two of my favourite characters also, so that's pretty cool. And it's an enjoyable episode. So the cold open is pretty cool because that sets it up nicely. They're in the town meeting. Taylor's called it like just randomly in the middle of the night, and they're all there. And I do like Taylor's line about this guy, selling lava lamps, and he's like, well, the only reason to have a lava lamp is because you're on drugs, which is a brilliant line from Taylor. But Luke, yeah, is kind of the star of this scene, and the Gilmore girls are there in the background. They're just like soaking up like Luke's like frustration in this scene, because they're like eating away and drinking and just like observing the chaos. They've got like a front row seat almost. And there's a cute little moment where they notice like Luke's hat starting to twitch and move, because he's just, he can't take it anymore. And we see the mayor of the town show up, who's saying, once again, we will do the reenactment. And he's just going through the whole history. And the actor playing the mayor, I'm not quite sure what his name is, but he's a really good character actor. You see him pop up a lot. The thing I remember him from is the Big Lebowski, where he played like the rich sort of like billionaire, and he was the one who actually was also called Lebowski, if you remember that character. But really good. He's not in that film that much, but he kind of steals every scene he's in. And I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but like years ago in the UK, like in the 90s, there was like this computer game TV show where you had different, was it called something like Games Master or something? You'll have to help me out in the comments if you remember this show, but it was this sort of thing where you had different challenges, different games, and I think members of the public sort of playing against like the Games Master or something along those lines. It's something I watched when I was like a teenager or something like that, and just something I quite enjoyed. But I mention it because I think this guy might have been like playing the Games Master on that. It certainly looks quite a similar look. But anyway, he's a character actor who pops up in a lot. He's really good. He plays the mayor in this, so I can't fault that casting. But yeah, Luke just loses it at this town meeting and just goes crazy. And obviously the Gilmore girls are just sitting back lapping this up. So yeah, Lorelai is starting to really fall for Max. Things are going well on that front. It obviously weirds Rory out a little bit, but there's a scene where she enjoys like Max's phone message. Just listens to them over and over again. And that's when she tells Rory about like how all good things happen when it's snowing. And there's some nice visual touches in this episode, like just the look of the town and the way things are captured in the snow, like long shots of characters like sort of looking at other characters, and it does capture this magical sort of feel. I think when you have distinct like weather in Stars Hollow, I think it really captures like the magical like feel of the town. So likewise, if you have it having like an autumn type setting with like the golden colours of the leaves, I think that really does something quite sort of distinct and picturesque. So I think the snow as well. So the scene where Lorelai locks eyes on Max across the snow. But there's some good teasing with Rory in this scene, because Lorelai is just saying how she gets like the tingles, and this is the night before, so it's not snowing yet. They're expecting the snow. And so when she says I get sort of tingles at the thought, so, and she says, well, that'll be the frostbite. And there are some, because most of the characters are like the opposite. They're kind of like not particularly looking forward to the snow. And there's a really dark joke from Michelle actually the next day at the hotel where he just says, "Oh yeah, sure. I look forward to the fact then you have to eat like a I can actually. What animal does he say? I think it's. Oh yeah, you have to eat like a dog to survive in the snow or something. So it's a very dark joke there from Michelle, but great sarcasm. I applaud it anyway. Almost bringing up like images of like yeah, like the gold rush and that sort of era. But I think this is like maybe the first important episode for Lorelai and Luke as a couple. And I think that's one of my big takeaways from this episode. And even though Lorelai goes on this date with Max, it goes really well. They kiss. He spends the night, although they don't actually sleep together. And the reason for that is because Lane's in the house, which I'll get to in a minute. But it's actually a big episode for Lorelai and for Luke because he's talking to her and they're talking about traditions and Lorelai is just giving all this like spiel about how some traditions are good and how yeah how yeah and just talking about her history with snow basically like how she's attached to it and Luke just gives like some sarcastic response back. He like deadpans it, but the important thing is it's a moment between them. It's then he actually listens to her even though he gives like quite a sarcastic response. He actually listens to her, he's there for her, and they have a moment. It's they do like they part on good terms and it's quite a nice little moment. And then crucially later Luke like sees Lorelai in the snow with Max and he obviously feels miserable, so it's one of the first big hint that Nanny does like her, but they actually share a moment. So my feeling on this is then it's a big moment in the future Lorelai Luke relationship, and so it's actually their episode more than Lorelai and Max's. And the other thing is Lorelai's little talk does inspire Luke because Luke then is a bit more open minded about reenactment with the mayor and the other characters, because in the previous scene he was like picking holes with it and all this about the logic of them just standing there for hours. So later on in the episode he brings them like coffee and there's this great visual shot of them just all frozen standing there. So yeah, that's kind of a positive when he brings them coffee and then they start taking order because some of them want like a particular tea and he's willing to get it for them, so it's a nice little like gesture from Luke. But that's when he sees Lorelai with Max, which kind of cuts him up inside and you really feel for him. But I mentioned Lane as well, the other big one. She is like really adorable in this episode. So first time we see her, she's actually like in a marching outfit, which she kind of gets mocked for. Lorelai calls her like Sergeant Pepper, which is funny, but yeah, she rocks it. She makes it work, even though it does look kind of dorky. But that's obviously to mark the anniversary as well. And in this episode, one of the big storylines is that Lane's trying to tell Rory about this guy she's got a crush on, and it's this guy who she grew up with, so she's known him for years. And she just loves his hair, basically. And there's like this inappropriate, awkward moment where she randomly, they're all there, like dressed in their like marching outfits, and she like inappropriately just touches his hair and then runs a mile. But it's someone who she's only just realised she now has feelings for. And Rory's not there for her. She's so caught up with Dean and the rest of like her school stuff and things like that. And it's just this big theme of the episode to do with their friendship, to do with Lane suddenly feeling left out because Rory is like a regular boyfriend. And obviously they no longer go to the same school. So it's a very relatable sort of storyline. And yeah, you do feel sorry for Lane, and she really lets Rory have it on the phone because Rory goes to stay with her grandparents, with Emily and Richard. And obviously this is when we see some of the impact of the snow, and they're just trapped there for the night. And she's talking to Lane on the phone, and that's when Lane really gets upset with her. And Lane in even cuter, I have to say, because she's wearing this adorable like green sweater, and she's got like this bouncy pigtailed hair. And yeah, she's actually at Rory's house because she like thought she was going to be there. And so yeah, the phone lines go down and they're cut off because of the snow. But it's like this big thing in the episode. And later on, Lane actually catches Lorelai and Max when they're kissing in the house. And it's almost like this saying, it's almost like to do with fate, I think, because things were kind of getting hot and heavy between Max and Lorelai. Max, I'm still not sold on him, by the way. It's he's not terrible, but I don't really buy into their relationship too much. I don't think he's that great, Max, but things are getting hot and heavy, and it looks like they could potentially take the next step. They could spend the night together. They could sleep together, and Lane actually walks in and sort of breaks them up. So that's a nice little touch there, where without that intervention, they could have slept together. But instead, Max just sleeps on the sofa, and instead Lorelai is there for Lane, because obviously Rory can't. She's stuck in Hartford, and yeah, she's there for Lane. It's a really nice scene. Lorelai obviously passing on her experiences, and yeah, reassures Lane, you're gonna be fine. You've got years of this to come. You know. No major disaster. And in the morning, when Rory gets back, there's a nice little make-up between Rory and Lane, and I think they really are one of the best kind of on-screen like sort of friendships in TV, where Rory just apologises, says I'm so sorry, and yeah, it's a nice little make-up because I sort of like the line about, she says something, you'll be mine, you'll be in my life from now on, like 24/7 or something. And Lane says, well, I don't think Dean will like that. And Rory's just like, well, I'll have to, because you came first. And I like that term, you came first. It's like this beautiful sort of statement. But again, I think a big theme of the series is that friendships do come first. They do. There is something more valuable and more reliable about them than relationships, if you like, and also obviously the close mother-daughter bond that Lorelai and Rory have. That is kind of like a friendship in itself, in a way, more of a friendship than a blood relation. Now, speaking of the whole Dean stuff with Rory, the one thing I'll pick fault with in this episode, which is kind of the trope, but it's when they reference, because in the one scene you see Dean in, he returns this Jane Austen book which Rory lent him. So, that's sort of fine and believable. But then they mention then he likes Hunter S. Thompson and saying, you should read Hunter S. Thompson, Rory. And it's just this sort of thing that the like teen shows tend to do with these kind of gut characters, just who are meant to be teenagers, of course. Not to say a teenager can't read Hunter S. Thompson, but it's probably quite rare, and also it's just, you just don't see it from Dean. You don't see him as like this big, like, cultural hip sort of guy. And I think it's just that thing of it's trying too hard to obviously it's going for the reference, which is a big thing on the show, and it's a cool little reference. But yeah, they do it a couple of times on Buffy, for example. So you have the whole Emily Dickinson thing with Owen in season 1, and then you have the dreadful Scott Hope, and who apparently is into the films of Buster Keaton, no less, when he invites Buffy to the Buster Keaton Film Festival. So it's just this kind of trope where you have these kind of bland, good-looking guys who really don't strike you as being like that culturally hip. And just as a quirky sort of like feature, they just like have these scenes where they mention something a bit, out of left field. They attach something to them, like Hunter S. Thompson in Dean's case. So I did sort of roll my eyes at that scene. So yeah, whatever. But whatever, some good references once again. I guess I have to say that about it. And the other thing that really happens is that when Rory is over at the grandparents, because the cook has been stranded in the snow again and can't make it, this is like a new experience for Emily, because she's used to having her meals prepared. And I kind of like her reaction to Rory just suggesting they just go to the kitchen and knock something up, because that's totally alien to Emily, who not only has her meals prepared, but they're normally like high class sort of meals. And Rory introduces Richard and Emily to frozen pizza, which Emily at first is quite horrified at, but I think it sort of grows on her. So some nice scenes here, and later on Rory comes across actually a photograph from 1983, and it's a photograph of, it's like a photo strip of her parents when they were originally together. So very sort of nostalgic, kind of sad because obviously it didn't work out. And I think this is the first time just in these pictures we see Christopher in the show. Obviously he does pop up from time to time. So then in a later scene they start going through pictures, like old photographs, and yeah, there's some nice funny. Actually, one of the best lines of the episode is the Errol Flynn line, because Emily is talking about, well, every young girl knows from a certain age that they want to get married. I like from age 12, I was like thinking about what flowers I wanted, and Richard says, did you know you wanted to marry Errol Flynn when you were 12? And yes, Emily had a thing for Errol Flynn, and it becomes, because Richard actually does look quite a bit like Errol Flynn, so I think that's actually quite a well thought out sort of joke. So So it's all good stuff. Yeah. So enjoyable episode. I like this one. It had a magic to it and very sort of enjoyable. Good to see more of Lane. Good to see more of Luke and the chemistry there with Lorelai. So good stuff. That's episode 8 of Gilmore Girls. Let me know your thoughts on the episode if you've watched it before in the comments below. Like and subscribe. All that stuff. I'll be back soon with more TV and more film. And on a film note, coming up this week, I will be doing the latest viewers choice review, and that will be of the horror movie Orphan. So that will be up sometime this week, and I'll be back with another Gilmore Girls review soon. So thanks for listening. Stay safe, guys, and I'll see you guys again soon. Goodbye.